You are Locked On Lions Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Man, a tough one at Ford Field in week 2 of the National Football League. Lions fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a rematch of a playoff matchup last year, and this time Baker Mayfield and the Bucs get the better half of the Detroit Lions. Welcome into a live Locked On Lions postcast. I am your host, Jake Rietma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma, right on the screen for you. Formerly with 97.1 The Ticket, the Lions flagship, now with Locked On Sports Detroit, and fired up for opportunities to be on the live Locked On Lions postcast like today, even if it doesn't go our way. But if you're a fan of the channel, you know how this works. We are your post-game destination and post-game destination for all things Detroit. So doubleheader today. In the first half of our doubleheader went a little bit better. The Tigers got the win as our first Locked On Tigers postcast went great. But now we've got a Locked On Lions postcast for you. And we want to get in on everything that we just saw transpire at Ford Field. Aiden Hutchinson with the big day, the offense struggling, and ultimately just failure of execution at times, leading to the Lions' demise in this one. But before we go any further, we want to thank you for making Locked On Lions postcast your post-game destination. And shout out to Matt Derry and all he does with Locked On Lions every single day. I know he's got a reaction show coming up as well. Together, he and I giving this the 1-2 punch, but I appreciate all the support he has shown throughout the course of just the beginning of Locked On Lions in the preseason and now into the regular season. So Lions fall to 1-1. We're going to break it all down. But as I mentioned, this is Locked On Sports Detroit, and it's your post-game destination for all things Detroit Lions, live reaction shows. And we thank you for making the Locked On Lions postcast your first listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. And how about a huge shout out for today's presenting sponsor? That's right, the Locked On Lions postcast is brought to you by Game Time. That's right. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. It's that simple. What time is it? Game time. Now, let's get into the nitty gritty. And I put Hutchinson having a huge day first up because there was so much, I don't want to say negative things to get into, but areas where the Lions, you just know they're a better team than what they showed today. And that's what's so frustrating. So I wanted to start with Aiden Hutchinson, and that's the player you drafted. That's the game wrecker that can take a game by the reins and just demand double teams, force the opposing offensive coordinator to call the game around him. The type of player you circle and highlight before every snap, especially on third down, and say you got to be aware of where 97 is at. And if there are more continued performances like this from Aidan Hutchinson, he's a surefire first team all-pro kind of guy. I mean, that was the type of game he had today, each and every play. And so collectively, from a complementary basis, you want the defense to continue to kind of rally around what Hutchinson did. And I think at times they did that, but at other times you let Baker Mayfield make plays with his legs. I mean, he looked like the type of elusive quarterback that shades of Michael Vick or a quarterback that was getting it done. I know the last Buccaneers rushing touchdown from Baker Mayfield was just a backbreaker for this defense. And I just think Baker Mayfield exposed some shortcomings on the tackling side of things, especially when he scored to put the Bucs up 20-16, and that last touchdown by the Bucs. I mean, that was the type of run where you look at that and you're like, my goodness, somebody hit somebody. It's so frustrating when that happened because the Lions were up 16-13, a nice response in the second half based on that third quarter, especially with how poorly that first half ended with the lack of execution, running the field goal unit out, and that poor execution down the stretch in that first half that led to missing out on a field goal. And those are costly points. And Dan Campbell he took responsibility right away in the halftime interview He said that's on the head coach 100%, and it cost the team 3 points. The other portion of the game that cost this team 3 points, Jared Goff throwing that second interception. And I know it's not sexy, it's not exciting, but at that position, at that point, the defense beat the Lions on that play. The Bucs defense, they got pressure, and Goff releases one over the middle of the field. And again, Daryl Johnston and Kevin Cooler were talking about this. You just got to live to play another down and take the sack. And so there's a lot of instances in this game where, okay, you take the sack. It's now third and really long. You get into field goal range. You take your medicine, and that makes it, you bring Jake Bates on, make it a 20-19 game, and you count on your defense. Because this defense was really, really good today at times. You had the interception from Branch, and you had Hutchinson wreaking havoc, like I mentioned, and you had the defense making plays all the way down to the very end to give this offense opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, and they just did not cash in. So that part was pretty frustrating, but love to hear from you. Give me your instant reaction to this one. Lions fall to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Bucs get the last laugh with the 20-16 win. Lions fall to 1-1. Huge day for Aiden Hutchinson, the rest of the offense, and there's the red zone struggles, which we'll get into as well. It just feels like there sometimes can be instances in which you don't have to complicate things. I mean, look at that touchdown drive from the Lions in the third quarter. It was David Montgomery punching it in. I thought David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and the rushing attack was really, really good today. And sometimes, for whatever reason, the Lions just were not, they go away from that at times. And again, you look at this depth chart, or this box score rather, altogether, the Lions, with 463 total yards, and the way they were able to rush the ball effectively, 139 yards. And it just didn't materialize into points on the scoreboard because of some of those mistakes, because of the failed execution at the end of the first half. And you could even say the failed execution at the end of the game as well, combined with the turnovers. Just a really, really frustrating day. Now, I don't want to be that guy that I really am not a believer, and this happened last year, so now this is going to happen this year. I think each and every game in the National Football League is 100% unique. And yes, momentum's a part of it. You start believing, but this team is too good to not believe. And I'm not even insinuating that. But this team started 1-1 last year. There was the disappointing loss in week 2. And I don't want there to be this feeling of the sky is falling, especially when you consider how much better we know this team can play, especially on the offensive side. We haven't seen it yet this year because, make no mistake about it, there were frustrating parts from week 1 where you thought, okay, they're going to knock the rust off in week 1, the old cliche of the most improvement taking place from week 1 to week 2. And unfortunately, that just did not happen here this afternoon at Ford Field. And I mentioned this on the Locked On Tigers postcast. Today had the opportunity, it had the makings of just one of those memorable sports days in Detroit, with the Tigers winning and then the Lions unable to take care of business at Ford Field. But as always, we love to get you your comments and see exactly what everybody else is feeling. So feel free to weigh in, instant reaction time, your thoughts on the win, on the loss, going 1-1, what you liked, what you didn't like. And we'll go right away to Jason Walter, who said play calling wasn't awesome. There were some instances the play calling left some to be desired. I thought that fourth down run to Jahmyr Gibbs running wide, and the way they set up the blocking scheme with J-Mo crashing down on a crack block, that was beautifully designed, beautifully executed. But absolutely, when you move the ball as effectively as the Lions did at times, and again, I'm not a huge stat guy, but you have over 400 yards of total offense, you think that's got to materialize into more than 16 points. So that being said, this, again, I think frustrating is just the best way to describe this loss, because you know it's there. You know it's there for Jared Goff. You could even make the case that this wide receiving core, this wide receiver room can play better, and all around. And again, September, especially, this has been talked about at length. The month of September really turns into the preseason in a lot of ways because of what the preseason has turned into. You know, those game live reps are just impossible to replicate. And that's not to sound like an excuse, because I don't think there's any excuse for some of the plays or lack of plays that the Lions made today. But as a whole, this offense and this team entirely can play a whole heck of a lot better. And I'm optimistic that we will see that in the very, very near future for the Detroit Lions. And after the loss, you can't help but start to look ahead to the next team up. The Lions will go on the road for the first time and take on the Cardinals. That's on this coming Sunday, September the 22nd. So that being said, let's get to a few more comments. Demetrius McNeil, I hate to say this, but Ben Johnson might want to consult his physician after this performance. Are the Lions in danger of falling to 1-2 after next week? I think that's a little bit of an overreaction, if I'm being honest, but I appreciate that. I appreciate the passion. That's what makes this fun. And maybe there is an element to having the collection of weapons that this offense does and not necessarily utilizing them in the best possible scenarios. Some other notes that I wrote down, and this was some first half observations. You had the fake punt to Vikai, and that was pretty awesome, considering that was, and pretty awesome is one way to describe it. It was very daring, considering that was on their own 20-yard line. But the offense couldn't take advantage of that, which was kind of a bummer, especially when, you make that gamble. You think, okay, we just broke the opposition's back with the fake punt. Now let's go take advantage of it. Lions unable to do that. And then I've talked at length about the disastrous end of that first half. You just can't have that, though. You just can't have it. And again, Dan Campbell took full responsibility. It's just a lack of execution from the coaching staff as well. But lots more to get into. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about the offensive struggles. We're going to talk about the way this defense played, which was a positive step in my mind, other than a couple of breakdowns that we talked about, and then we'll get into who the Lions have coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Locked On Lions postcast just getting started here on Locked On Sports Detroit. This episode of the Locked On Lions postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. That's right. Don't even forget, Prize Picks is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. I love Prize Picks. Play it all the time because it's real simple. You simply pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and you watch the winnings roll on in. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And if you love promotions, you love easy victories, how about this for the month of September? 1 passing yard from Caleb Williams. That's right. Just 1 gets you a win on Prize Picks every single week in September. Just pick more on the passing yards for Caleb Williams, and it's a guaranteed win. That's right. Every weekend in September, 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss out on this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Prize Picks is also the way to put your members first. That's right. All withdrawals fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out of your lineup isn't perfect. You can double down on your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So don't take my word for it. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. This episode of the Locked On Lions postcast is also brought to you by DoorDash. That's right. DoorDash. Excited to be on board because look at football season is back, right? We all know that. We've waited a long time for that, and it is back and better than ever. And if you're like me, you love ordering some of your favorite foods on game day. I'm talking wings, pizza rolls, snacks, you name it, drinks. DoorDash is the way to do it so you don't miss a single play. You got the Lions game going down to the wire today. I know it didn't go the way we wanted, but DoorDash will bring you your order so you don't have to miss any of the action. That's right. ultimate spread on Sunday includes wings. It includes some pizza. You got to have the dips, maybe some tacos, chips and salsa. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it. Just go nuts. And DoorDash helps you do exactly that, because you can't define game day without some of the best game day snacks, and DoorDash is here for you on that. So use the promo code LOCKEDONFALL24. That's LOCKEDFALL24, LOCKEDFALL24 for 50% off and up to $10 value when you spend 15 or more on your first order. Now, this is a limited time offer, so get in on the action. Terms to apply. The promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. Oh, that's a bummer, because when the Lions play like this, you're going to need some alcohol. I kid. DoorDash, that's right. Your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. You must be 21 years older to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. Once again, that promo code is LOCKEDONFALL24 for 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend 15 or more on your first order. All right, back to our Locked On Lions postcast after a disappointing loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 20-16. No, neither team scored in the fourth quarter, which I thought was kind of telling with the way this game ended up being more of a defensive struggle. And this Lions defense, again, I think they deserve a lot of credit, other than I'm going to be seeing Baker Mayfield in my nightmares running in that final touchdown that the Bucs scored, where the play before that, he juked Malcolm Rodriguez out. That's not going to look good on film, I'm not going to lie. But and then he scores the play after that with another run. And it's demoralizing to a defense when you play so well, and you take away some of the options, and then it's the quarterback making plays with the legs. But there are some areas of concern in the secondary. I think Baker Mayfield and Godwin had their way in the first half, especially 7 receptions, 117 yards for Godwin. Very impressive. Good to see on the Lions side of the receiving things, though. Amon-Ra St. Brown comes back with a big game with 11 receptions and 119 yards. Didn't get into the end zone, though, part of those red zone struggles that the Lions had. Disappointing day for Jared Goff, man. 34 of 55, 307 yards, 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions, obviously very costly, but the defense deserves a lot of credit for how they responded after the offense kind of put them in a vulnerable situation, and the pressure that this Lions defensive line got all game long, led by 97 Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, the 3 sacks in the first quarter, 4.5 for the game, just a monster game for Aiden Hutchinson. But and I think every Lions player will be the first to tell you, it doesn't matter if you don't get the victory in this offense with a lot of work to do. And again, I think you look at how good this offensive line is, and you wonder, okay, why isn't there more of a commitment to the run, especially in the red zone? I think Lions got a little bit overcomplicated there. But I'd love to know what you think as well, based on your reaction to this game, your observations, what the Lions can do to be better, how they can bounce back with a win and next week against the Arizona Cardinals. So appreciate everybody tuning in, as always, on a Locked On Lions postcast. Disappointing day all the way around. Some things to build off of, but we know with the expectations of this team, we are not in the business of moral victories or things to build on or big individual performances. We have one thing on our minds, and that is W's, wins. And the Lions, unfortunately, fall to 1-1 on the season. But that being said, I thought the defense, after the turnover on downs, even though that wasn't, even though the Bucs could have, if with a first down would have ended that game, you get the 2 stops. And then on that third down, the Bucs tried to get a little bit creative with the fake run and try and pass to the other side. And Derek Barnes, rather, I mean, he deflects the ball, number one, so you don't have to use the timeout. Number 2, though, I thought maybe, wow, it would have been an incredible play, but it deflects into the air and maybe you get an interception. The Lions had the ball right back there, or a pick 6 or something, but obviously that did not happen. But really an athletic play by Derek Barnes all the way around. So we got one more segment on the Locked On Lions postcast. Don't go anywhere. Just getting started. We'll tie a bow on this one when you come back here on the Locked On Lions postcast. This episode of the Locked On Lions Postcast is brought to you by Game Time. That's right. The Game Time is the only app you'll need for purchasing tickets to live events. You want to get to Ford Field, Comerica Park for the wild card race, you name it. Hey, even you want to go see a comedy show, maybe it's a concert to wrap up concert season. Game Time has you covered because it's the only ticketing app you'll ever need because it's simply the best. Lots of reasons why I use Game Time for all my purchases. In fact, used it this weekend because I love the all-in pricing. Because when you toggle this feature in the app, it's going to show you the total upfront cost with no surprise fees at checkout. What a concept, right? You would think every app would do this, but that's not the case because we've all had that experience where you go to buy a ticket, you cash out, and there's fee. You don't love that. The all-in pricing, when you toggle this feature, total upfront costs, perfect. All-in pricing, show me what I'm going to pay, right? Love the lowest price guaranteed. And if not, you find a better deal, which is rare. That actually won't happen. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. How about that for peace of mind? And not to mention your purchase covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Don't take my word for it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create that account, redeem it using the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And I ask you, what time is it? Game time! All right, we close it out with the unfortunate reality that our Detroit Lions are 1-1 on the season after the loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road, and Baker Mayfield and company get it done. Some question marks. I thought early Terrion Arnold got picked on a little bit. Ennis Rakeshaw wasn't even in the game. He was inactive today. Maybe that's an area of maybe not concerned, but one of those yellow caution flags of let's keep our eye on that. And hopefully he can continue to progress and develop. And it's just his rookie season. So I'll remember that. It's game 2. It's September. And let's remember this team started 1-1 last year as well. But this was a game I expected the Lions to get. And maybe the Buccaneers are better than we thought. I mean, Baker Mayfield was far and away the best quarterback in week 1. And here against a good Lions defense, yes, he was running for his life all game, but was able to do enough to help this Bucs team ultimately earn the win. And you got to give this Bucs defense a lot of credit. And want to get to a few more comments to wrap it up. Mark's in the comments saying big game for the Bucs. It absolutely was. And they're 2-0. And we talked about how weak that NFC South might be, but the Bucs could be a good team. You look at the Saints. I mean, they blew out the Cowboys today. Now they're 2-0. So maybe the South is a little better than we thought. But 1-1 on the season, got to bounce back against the Cardinals, which I have no doubt the Lions will. Teddy Roll, ouch. I hope the sun god isn't hurt too badly. Yeah, he came out of the game at the end there and limped off when the Lions were trying to make one last late push. Obviously, it's life in the National Football League. Injuries are a part of the game, and we'll continue to keep you abreast. And I know Matt Derritt, with his day-to-day on Locked On Lions, will have you covered on all of that. A lot of people getting in on the Ben Johnson terrible play calling. That's what Black Lion has to say. Bad loss. Ben Johnson had terrible play calling. And I don't disagree in some senses. I also think the execution at times wasn't great. I think Goff made some really uncharacteristic, unforced errors. And the second interception is what jumps out to me. And to get a little bit X's and O's, if you will, and breaking it down, the pre-snap is where you have to know. And again, Daryl Johnson talked about this, and obviously he's one of the best at breaking down a game, but you have to know where the opposing pressure is coming from, where are your hot routes, where are your safety valves, and you can't just loft it willy-nilly over the middle of the field because the pressure's in your face. And as I mentioned earlier in the postcast, if you're in an ideal world, you find a way to throw it away and live to play another down. But if you have to take a sack, the drive's not over there. The drive can continue on. Yes, it's 3rd and a mile, but that amount of time left in the game, you get 3. Now it's 20-19. And what does that last drive look like? Down 20-19 as opposed to 20-16. Obviously, the Lions got into the red zone and faced a 4th down, not quite a 4th and goal. The line to gain was inside the 5, and the Lions came up short on that 4th down, but you kick the field goal and you go ahead. Now, if one of my favorite sayings, especially when you're breaking down a football game, if ifs were fifths, we'd all be drunk, but we're not. So it didn't happen that way. And the Lions lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unfortunately, in this one. So instant reaction, very disappointing. I don't want to do the whole, but this better serve as a wake-up call for these Detroit Lions. But there has to be an element of, we got to get this thing right on offense. We got to get the red zone execution right on offense. And it's still being an early season. You don't love being 1-1, but hey, still time to figure this out, to continue to do the classic Dan Campbell gif. So if you're listening on the audio version or audio only version, I'm giving you the Dan Campbell gif here. We got to rise with and I have no doubt this Lions team will do exactly that. So next Locked On Lions postcast for me will be after the conclusion of the Week 3 game against the Arizona Cardinals on the road. So it'll be a later game. And for Locked On Sports Detroit, our platform here, we've got an exciting wild card race for the Detroit Tigers back with you tomorrow night as they go to Kansas City for a huge series against the Kansas City Royals. Make sure you like today's video, subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit, helps us out a great deal. And again, if you're just tuning into a Locked On Lions postcast, it's real simple. It's your live reaction show after each and every game on Sunday, and Matt Derry's got you covered week in and week out, day in and day out, I should say. All right, that being said, appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And again, appreciate the support of Locked On Tigers postcast and a Locked On Lions postcast. And we've got a couple more comments to get to. Hey, I'm a Niners fan. So bad day for all of us. Yeah, Niners lost to the Vikings as well. And Jason Walter, Ennis Rakestraw hamstring injury in warmups. That's my bad if I missed that. I did not see it. We had Tigers going on at the same time as Lions, so I very well could have missed that, but I just saw he was inactive. But we'll keep you abreast on that as well. Okay, appreciate everybody tuning in as always. Now, for your next listen, make sure you check out the Locked On NFL with 2 shows every day. First, Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barber shop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. The Lions lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-16, 2 interceptions for Jared Goff. 4.5 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson. Really good day for him, but it wasn't enough as the Lions fall to 1-1. They'll try to do better next week against the Arizona Cardinals. Appreciate your support of Locked On Sports Detroit, and we'll see you Monday night for a Locked On Tigers postcast. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.